Exciting stuff, eh?
Boom!
Boom! Hello, everyone, and welcome to another EV Cafe webinar. And today we're diving into the heavyweights of transport with our session, Trucks Are Changing, Trucks Are Charging, if you haven't already noticed from the video. So as always, I'm Johnny Berry, joined by the incredible EV Cafe team. They are Sarah Sloman, Paul Kirby, John Curtis, and we're also joined by Sam Clark. But before we kick things off, incredible EV Cafe team and Sam Clark. So before we kick off things, a huge thank you to our gold sponsors. They are Webfleet, BAA, Iveco, of course, and Europe Car. Their support makes these discussions possible. This session focuses on the electrifying transformation in heavy goods transports. So exploring the importance, how it's evolving, and what it means for the logistics industry. Because as we know, heavy goods vehicles are integral to our economy, ensuring goods move seamlessly across industries and borders. Yet they pose challenges around emissions, efficiency, polluting the air we breathe, safety, operational costs, and the list goes on. The good news, however, groundbreaking advancements in technology, infrastructure, and strategy are driving the electrification of heavy goods transport. So today we'll hear from the industry leaders who are making this transition a reality. We have Brett from Iveco, a pioneer in zero-emission truck manufacturing, Chris from Welsh Group, a fleet operator navigating this change first, and our very own Sam from GridServe, driving the infrastructure that powers it all. So let's start by talking to the EV Cafe team and ask them critical questions about the transition to eHEVs. Sam, I'll start with you, shall I? So on the topic of charging infrastructure, we know it's essential for eHEV success. What progress are we seeing in ensuring reliable and accessible options for these type of vehicles?
Well, good morning, good afternoon, Johnny. Well, that's a big question, and I think actually one I probably need to wait for a little bit, as I am a guest today. But yeah, it's all advancing, and I think the guys who are on the call as well today, who are also guests, are going to show the work that they're putting into this. But rest assured, there is a tremendous amount of work going on in the background, and it's just starting to manifest itself now in the public domain, which is very, very exciting. So we are getting there, and we've got a long way to go. But it's certainly starting to happen. So it's quite exciting. I think 2025 is going to be a bit of a pivotal year for eHGV. We're not going to see swathes of them up and down the motorways just yet, but they'll start to appear just like cars did many years ago, and that's quite exciting. So more on that to come, of course.
Very eager to find out, but we'll have to wait for a little bit later in the show. Sarah, how can we simplify or streamline charging processes for fleets, operators that are transitioning to electric trucks?
To follow on from Sam's point, I don't believe that we will see that many EHGVs using public charging. But of course, the EV rally, we have proven that it can be done. Now, what I absolutely love about this is if you think about it in simple terms, with the battery pack on that vehicle being 4, 5, maybe even 6 times as large as a passenger vehicle, we're looking at, if it was public, 5, 6 times the cost as well. So this is why I think that dedicated bookable depot charging, perhaps with incentives or off-peak demand, will be vital to making sure that those profit margins work for EV. And I've got to hand it to Iveco, that video. I haven't seen that video. That was excellent. I want you to play it again later.
You said that it's been proven during the Green Fleet rally.
Yeah.
What was that then?
Well, we had a couple of brands with us, and both were utilising the public network. And there was this amazing moment where we visited one in Oxford, and the larger of the two came in and almost caught the canopy, but was able to stop in time. I was ready filming it just in case. But no, they did stop in time, so they were able to plug in just like anybody else, because those bays had been designed for extra large vehicles like that. And also we had AW Energy gladly charging the 2 trucks at the time as well, with their direct power from wind source. And then the last one was one of my absolute favorites. Amy Carter will remember this well. We pulled in very late into extra services, was had to block a whole load of the bays, but it didn't matter because there was nobody else there apart from me watching them whilst I was eating KFC.
And how do you think payment solutions evolve to keep up with the sort of multi-site charging or even cross-border
Yeah, I love it. This is one of my favorite subjects. Now, we just can't decide in the payments industry if it's going to be an in-cab solution sort of from within the machine itself, from within the vehicle, or whether we're still going to be equipping drivers with tabs and fobs that they need to travel with. So it's going to depend on interconnectivity. It's going to depend on the design we do today for the trucks and vehicles that come out in 3-5 years' time. And how do we overlay that with the financial services capabilities around the globe? That's my job.
Sounds interesting.
It is.
Big job. John, a little birdie tells me that you used to be an EHCV driver.
Well, HGV's a bit strong. I used to deliver coal. So I had a coal truck, flatbed, and I deliver about 3 or 4 tons of coal every day when I was a youngster. And yeah, so that's my dirty little secret.
What would you say the role of driver training plays in ensuring a successful transition to electric HEVs, not shipping around coal?
I think the issue is exactly the same for vans and trucks, in that you need to take, and cars, you need to take the drivers along with you. And I think imposing vehicles onto any driver is always going to be a challenge. Helping them to understand the opportunities and then to experience what it's like is key to the transition. We've got to have robust training packages in place for drivers and fleet managers and everybody involved in that value chain so that they all move forward together.
Brilliant. Well, that's an interesting fact for John Curtis there. Didn't know.
Another dirty little secret.
I think you've got plenty of them, John.
Ron Godfrey says, Natty King Coley Curtis.
Well, what excites you the most about the EHCV transition, and what should operators consider as they adopt heavy goods vehicles? Anything you've learned from being the electric van man in the past couple of years?
Well, I think being the electric van man sort of said to me back 2 or 3 years ago that trucks would be like probably some other method of zero emission, but that's proving very different. And that's very exciting. And I will say about the driver training, it was great to speak to the driver trainer for Mercedes-Benz, and he said, I hate this electric truck. And I was like, what? I said, I hate it. And I said, why? He said, because every time I drive it, I realise I've got to go back to the diesel truck that I was driving before. So the exciting thing for me is all about drivers, because we talk about driver well-being and life being easier for the driver. Driving is a tough job and it's very stressful. And I think drivers get a tremendous benefit from all of that. So that's quite exciting. The other thing that I think is quite exciting is the potential for collaboration. Talked about charging today, and somebody joked in the chat that, you know, there'll be a Facebook post about the trucks will only work when you can charge them at home. But home is a depot for them, and often they're traveling between one depot to another, and it's this charger sharing, or charge point sharing in different sites that we need to bring together. It works for vans and it can work really well for trucks, because they're literally going from one depot to another depot, and then they're unloading at that depot and then can charge. So I think collaboration will be key to keeping that energy, the energy in the trucks, and enabling them to go further. So that's kind of cool.
I think when it comes to trucks, comes big power demands, which means everything scales up. The analysis, the infrastructure, the grid connections. But it's not just the systems that get bigger, it's the cost too. So I think, the financial implications of these upgrades are substantial from what I've seen so far. So careful planning, collaboration, as you mentioned, are essential to get it right. And I think they're just more than vehicles. From what I've heard, particularly from Chris Dimitri, they're a catalyst for innovation in how we use and manage energy in a much larger scale, locally and supporting the grid. So on that note, I think it's time to hear from our first guest speaker. It won't be any surprise, but I'll let Sarah do the introductions today. But before she does, we do have another video to play, don't we, JC?
We sure do, buddy. Now then, there we go. Let's have some of that, and all of that. Come on.
Electrification of heavy goods vehicles or general commercial vehicles has always been the harder area to tackle because cars have got a provision now, but the big stuff is hard to get in the existing locations. The industry needs a solution to be able to electrify the larger things on the road, and this is the beginning of that journey. They need a lot of power, right? So we're getting to the point now where we're looking at, including within this trial, up to 1 megawatt charging being distributed potentially into vehicles of the future, which is the same as a small village. So we've got to keep pushing the boundaries in terms of power to make sure that we can continue to deliver the charging solutions that enable these things to go up and down the country as effectively and as swiftly as possible. As with everything we've done at GridServe, really, it's a learning curve, and we're learning by doing. So we've got to understand the physical constraints as well as the technical constraints. I got here earlier and saw a couple of electric vans charging, and it was only a couple of years ago we were taking pictures of those going, hey look, there's a van turned up. Now it's just normal, whereas this isn't normal. So what we want to do is hopefully I can see that journey again where we're putting the harder to reach vehicles on the road and more people can make use of that.
Exciting stuff, and I can't wait to cut you off, Sam, when you've overrun your podcast.
I know. I will be timing it on my
ready to go.
very intelligent sports spot. I hate doing the intros. I can't believe I volunteered to do this.
Get on with it.
A lot of pressure.
You know him best.
Okay,
Come on.
I do, and he very dangerously allowed me to write this. So So Sam Clark, all-round good egg, who was behind the scenes in the early days of GridServe, and GridServe's catchphrase there, we will deliver. I think you are delivering. Now, he remains a cornerstone to the growth of their EV charging infrastructure, and as we will hear, their EHGV charging infrastructure too. Now, he literally never mentions it, but he did found the all-electric delivery firm Newt in 2009, has 2 Guinness World Records, is a co-director of the EV Café with us lot. But, I say last in, first out and all that. But jokes aside, he has had a stellar year. He was voted #1 on the Motor Transport Decarbonisation Power Players list with the brilliant Chris Welsh up there at #2, and also #14 on the Green Fleet 100. And let's face it, #1 in my hate list. Oh no, that's typo. My heart. Number one in my heart. Now, fun fact, there's a lot I could squeeze into here, but this man likes sweets so much that he hides them from his kids in his top cupboard and eats them when they're not around, like taking candy from a pair of preteens. And he once played a rugby match dressed as a superhero purely to annoy the opponents, of course, and naturally likes to roll around on 2 wheels, which is our favorite pastime at the moment, with some super cool stuff happening this year. But for now, let's hear about something with a lot more wheels than that. EHGV. Over to you, Sam.
And that's your time up.
Yeah. We're actually ahead of schedule. I did check. I've got a long and a short version.
Yeah, I had 2 concerns with Sarah doing the introduction. Firstly, what she was going to say about me and whether I was going to die inside, and secondly, that she was blatantly going to do it better than I've ever done, and therefore probably needs to do it from here on in. So thank you, Saz, for that introduction. And thank you, everybody, for inviting me onto this glorious webinar as a guest. I think I have done this before, actually, but it's been some years before I've been actually a guest to do it. But anyway, I'm wasting my own time now, so I will crack on. But today I just wanted to share with you a little bit of what I've been working on alongside GridServe in the EHGV world. Clicking on share, hoping it's working, pressing it now. Please, everyone tell me, or someone shout if
Yeah,
Yes,
it's working.
It's working.
Excellent. Okay, right. So I've only got 5 minutes, so this is going to be very brief, but I just wanted to do a quick shot of fire through all of the different elements of what the electric freightway is currently doing, just to give some people some flavor. So everyone knows about GridServe, I suspect, in this call already, but we did put the first high-powered commercial charging bay into the country at Braintree just a couple of years ago now, as well as the huge rollout across the country of the public passenger side and 4 electric forecourts. But that is not enough. We need a commercial solution, as we've talked about many times before, and hopefully the projects we're working with, the HGV, is going to help deliver that. So the project that we were lucky enough to win and we awarded by Innovate UK a little over a year ago now was part of the ZHID trials, which we're going to hear more from Chris Welch as well shortly, which is the Zero Emission Heavy Goods Vehicle and Infrastructure Demonstrator Programme. The GridServe bid was lucky enough to be the largest of the 4 that were awarded of 62 million. We're looking to put, and we've now got over 142 trucks now ordered or on the road as part of this project. We're looking to we're looking to place over 200 chargers and over 20 public and private sites throughout 2025. So the funding is done, the vehicle trucks orders is done, but is still growing, and the infrastructure is starting to go into the ground as we speak. The project consortium is massive. It has a number of different OEM partners, leasing partners, charging and landowners, as well as some of the largest hauliers globally and nationally that you will have already heard of, and then an awful lot of third-party stakeholders as well. So this is a big, big consortium, incredibly complex just to organize this many people. But I'm very grateful for every single name and logo on this screen for their contributions, because as a result of that, it's the second largest grant fund Innovate UK has ever awarded, ever, to anybody. And it's courtesy of and have help of all of these different companies, particularly Hitachi, to get that working. Now, my buttons have stopped working. Sas mentioned earlier that one of the trucks on the rally couldn't fit in the charging bays, and here we are as a number of different examples where every single vehicle on this picture is successfully charging at a grid serve location, but every single one of them does not fit. So I think this is just a lovely visual representation of the problem that we've already got that needs to be solved. As far as the data is concerned, 29% of the UK's domestic greenhouse gases comes from transport. However, 5% of the mileage is done by HGVs. Not a lot, you say, but they do contribute up to 19, if not more now, % of transport emissions, meaning there is a material difference that we can make by affecting a small number of the miles on the UK roads. And this just I hope to highlight the need. This is also quite useful. These are the number of trucks that GridServe alone, with the courtesy of the help of all the hauliers are putting on the road, is nearly 25% of all EHGVs in the country will come from this project, just showing you the size and scale of what we're trying to achieve. However, the yin to this yang is that this graph shows the percentage of all EHGVs relative to diesel. So on the one hand, doing great. On the other, we are only a fraction of the diesel emitting trucks on the roads in the UK. And this is what we all need to address. So that tiny little slither, which some people can't even see, I suspect, on their screens right now on the right-hand side, that tiny little light green slither is where we're at and where we will be at by the end of this year. So there is a huge way to go, but we have at least started on the journey. I'm not going to go through all these hypotheses and questions, but we've got a load of different questions here in regards to the sort of things that we want to test. Is this going to work? Is it going to be cost effective? Are they more or less expensive? Is the public charging going to be able to support it, etc., etc.? But conscious of time, I'm going to rattle through just a couple of examples of some of the major hauliers that have already started. I'm doing another visit to the United Utilities in a couple of weeks' time to showcase their latest trucks that have gone on the road as a result of this project. So these are just some visual representations of actual vehicles on the road working on the daily as a result of this project, which I'm incredibly proud of. We're also working an awful lot in the bookability and reservation area. I'm in our testing centre in Swindon right now, which is where that top left picture was taken. We've got a huge amount of effort going into bookability, into reservation systems, into sweat path analysis, into the configuration and the styling of these sites relative to the existing incumbent passenger car chargers. I mean, in many cases, the chargers are the same, but the configuration is completely different. So we're just highlighting here just a handful, and it is just a handful of the bits of complexity that we have to try and resolve in order to put these sorts of public infrastructure solutions into the ground and up and running and working functionally.
God, Sam, I really hate to interrupt.
He's all right. He's doing okay. He's not out yet.
You've got 30 seconds, Sam. I'll give you 30
You got one.
seconds.
Okay, you got 1 minute.
Thanks, Johnny, for just wasting 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So we've got a number of different reports that are already published and out. So if you'd like any more information about those, please let me know and I can share them. But it covers all the information I've just shared in 4.5 minutes, but in far greater detail. So yeah, hopefully that's a quick whistle-stop tour of what we're up to. There's an awful lot more behind the scenes, but hopefully that gives a flavour of what's happening right now. And with that, Johnny, I am done.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'll stop the spotlight on you. Just a reminder, if you have any questions for us or our wonderful guests this afternoon, then please do stick them in the Q&A tab.
There is a hand raised, Johnny. I think, I'm not sure. So Philippa, perhaps put your question in the chat, unless you've just taken your hand down and it was by accident. Anyway, there we go.
Yeah, okay.
I love how Sarah's got some background noise. It's Kate Tyrrell.
Yes, it is. Shush.
I can hear that as well. It's really off-putting. Thanks, Kate.
Sorry.
Yeah, so thank you, Sam, for your insights and the critical role of the charging infrastructure. Let's keep the momentum going, shall we? Sarah, would you like to do the honours of introducing our next guest?
I really would. This is actually quite fun when you get going, isn't it? We are 4 minutes ahead of schedule, so we're doing really,
weren't we
really
going to
well.
ask
So,
questions of Sam?
yeah, we're supposed to be doing Q&A, but I wonder if Johnny's bunching them together. Let's not interfere with the genius that Johnny is.
Okay.
Just hold that
Give us
thought,
some more
write it
fun
down,
stuff.
put it in the whatever. So here we are. Chris Welsh is the managing director of Welsh Group, a family-run logistics company recognized for its leadership in sustainable transport and innovation. Chris is known for his ability to build strategic partnerships and drive innovation whilst maintaining the family values that define Welsh Group. His insights and expertise make him a key figure in shaping the logistics industry's transition to sustainable practices. But we really ought to point out, as Paul said, that lots of people do speak so incredibly highly of Chris that I suspect his real life will be a lot more interesting than that sentence, which I think you've ripped off LinkedIn. Fun fact, Chris has a lifelong love of Lego. It is a great conversation starter. You'll find it in his office at work, and he has kids, so all the excuses he needs to buy even more. I think you and Kevin Booker would be BFFs, to be honest. Kevin Booker and you both do love a complex Lego site. So please do come on camera, and it'd be great to hear from you. Go ahead.
It won't let me.
It won't let you come on camera. Oh no.
He's coming.
Let's have a look.
I can see something. Just was it?
Building anticipation. He's clever.
There he is, back again.
Morning, guys.
That was
Afternoon.
awesome.
Sorry,
Afternoon.
guys. Afternoon.
Enjoy.
Thanks for that beautiful intro.
My pleasure. I always learn.
Right. Well, I'm an open book, so it's literally I'm here for a chat. Ask me anything, you guys, the panel.
Okay, well, starting with number 2
people.
on the power players list, how did that come about? How did you feel about that? It's incredible.
Well,
Two.
as me and Sam lovely refer to each other as number 1 and number 2.
Aw.
How did it come about? I don't know really. This whole journey, and I suppose that's part and parcel of it. It is a journey. It's been 2.5 years in the making, and we'll go into a little bit about what we've been up to, what we've done so far, what we're doing next. But in our little world, in our being a little regional haulier, we were just doing what we thought was right. Obviously, the mandates came out, the government guidance came out, the deadlines came out, and we thought, well, we better get cracking. And you get a little bit way down the journey, and you realise, you look behind you, and everyone's looking at what you're doing. You're like, well, this is a bit strange, isn't it? And we just ran with it. We just ran with it, and hopefully, we're keeping ahead of the pack and helping shape this transition.
Chris,
John's got his hand up.
why do you care? Because the easiest thing in the world would be to say, do you know what, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing until we have to make the transition to EV. But you've taken the lead. That's expensive. It's operationally challenging. Finding the charging infrastructure is a challenge right now. You're doing an already hard thing the hard way. Why bother?
Part of it, John, is the same excitement that I get when I look at all your lovely faces on your webinars and you look back some bits and pieces. It's exciting, isn't it? Part of it is the pure excitement. If innovation and doing something different and helping push change is part of the reason, hopefully, a lot of people get out of bed in the morning. Secondary to that, as it mentioned, I'm luckily part of now a 4th generational haulage firm. So if I want to do my great granddad a solid, as they say, then I need to make sure that I'm still here for another 90 years. We turned 90 last year, and I'm going to see it through its centenary, and I want to see it through its centenary. And as Sarah said, I have children now. I'm not going to force them into business, but there's the next generation, and we're a local business covering East Anglia that is here to provide a reasonable way of life for me and my family, but the other part of it is to provide jobs and a service to the local community. And to do that, as we see, you're going to have to change. This is a pivotal moment, like Sam will say, and all of you will say, like, since the creation of the combustion engine, actually converting to these new alternative fuels is just as big a change, and you want to get ahead of it. And I'm not going to be not going to shy away from it. At the end of the day, it's commercial and competitive advantage, isn't it? You get there first, and it's much harder to be knocked off your pedestal.
True.
Mm.
Chris, other quick question. Sorry, Paul. I know you want to go then. But how has integrating these vehicles changed the way you approach logistics and fleet management and operations?
It's an interesting one because, again, for a bit of background, we're kind of like a tier 2 operator, shall we say. You have your tier 1s that blanket cover the UK and Europe, and they take lanes and they work with the big customers, shall we say. And then there's us in the middle, and my operation and my planning department actually is what we refer to as like a shared user. So I have a fleet of 70 other HGVs. And every day is different. We have a couple of contract customers that are lanes, and they do the same thing every day, 7 days a week, every night, every day. But actually, the majority of our fleet is reactive. We will plan today what we do tomorrow, the whole fleet. And that is actually really, that synergizes a lot with how this transition is working. We have the weight restraints, we have the range restraints to get over. But actually, when you're looking at your fleet that much in that much detail every day, whether you're going to make money, whether you're going to achieve those times, whether you're going to make that distance, actually, we were already doing a lot of it, and transitioning into alternative fueled vehicles was, I'll say it, pretty simple. My planning team will hate me for saying that, but what that then brings with it is all the new systems, integrations, and dashboards, and information and data that you get from these new era vehicles, and like Sam alluded to, the booking systems and bits and pieces that need to go with it. It just snowballs at that point. And to answer your question again, Johnny, it actually is a catalyst for then looking at new ways of doing things and new integrations, and I don't know, again we said at the start, collaboration is what we've learned, and what the doors that this has opened, Z had been one of them, is just tremendous.
And Chris, on that point of collaboration, because I think my question is twofold. First of all, you share, or you are working towards sharing your power with other users. And second of all, you're getting a lot of that power from other sources. So you're not just relying on the grid for this. Talk to me about, one, the sharing, and two, renewable or microgrids or things that will enable you to scale.
The first bit is, as you said, you can't do this alone. There's range anxiety. We've seen it in the vans and the cars, and now on the EHGVs. You need to work in partnership. Again, we go on this journey, and it resonates with a lot we've already done. Again, we're actually part of an association called the Transport Association, which was founded, and we helped found in 1955. And this is a group of hauliers across the UK that we all bunker fuel, we all go around the country. We don't have fuel cards. We all go into each other's depot, and we talked about on depot charging a second ago. We all go into each other's depots and, in effect, have commercial arrangements for buying fuel nice and cheap off each other, and it's maintained our position in the market. That is what's going to happen with electric or the next alternative fuel. And again, we said about the importance of depot sharing and charging. And again, people are surprised when I say things like that. They don't realise that this collaboration already happens. So again, from what you're saying, Paul, that makes it very easy for us to go, right, well, how many of our partners there are already on that journey? But actually, then we understand it. I mean, again, some places we go to, you still get a bit of paper out. You get the old foil ones where you sign it, and then you come back to traffic office and you get invoiced if you're lucky. And then the other ones that have got high tech RFID cards and bits and pieces, but it's already happening, Paul. So that was so we got over that stigma when people say, well, I don't want people to come on in my depot. We've been doing it for 70 years, and we've already got over the health and safety issues and the access and egress issues or concerns many decades ago. So again, as soon as we were lucky enough to try, and we got a 150 kilowatt charger in January 23 now, and had it open as soon as we had it in the ground. And again, the guy, probably our best story there is Voltload. Obviously, the guys in Corby and Peterborough are doing some great work, trying to literally start an EHGV business from the ground up. I think we're at 80 charging sessions with those guys, and again, that's not, it's nothing compared to Sam's. But when you look at it, and again you look at that 0.2% that was on the pie chart a minute ago, it shows that it can be done, and it is being done at the end of the day, Paul.
Yeah, can I just make a point on that Volt Loader one, Johnny? Those guys did their first public charging session at Braintree last week, which was fascinating because it was only one charging session, and yet we had the amount of data we got out of that one session, and the things that we've learned is extraordinary. I spent an hour this morning with our tech guys here about the temperature sensors within the charging cable itself and how that's behaving versus the charger and the vehicle. I'd never thought about temperature sensors in the actual cable before. And because of that, we had a truck turned up with no energy, full beans, full charging. We start to learn data sets that no one's ever done before. So there's things that we'll now adapt our methodology and the technicalities of how we structure our charging configurations based on learnings from things like that we hadn't even seen coming in regards to temperature sensors in the cable itself that needs to now be considered. And all of this learning with yourself, Chris, and guys like Volt Loader that was one session, and we've got reams of data to make informed decisions on. And it's just fantastic to see these things out in the real world, giving us the opportunity to do that learning.
I think one of the things I love about the charger sharing, you touched on it, about the diesel sharing, it's a competitive cost. So we're not necessarily having to pay commercial rates, the rates that cover the need of your business, but still it's much cheaper than going out into the sort of 80-90p's or 80p's per kilowatt hour. So for me, I think it's a great way of really accelerating that transition to zero emission, which we're all for at the EV Cafe.
Exactly.
Chris, a question that James Peacock has raised, and one that came to my mind: you bunker fuel. Do you have plans with other operators to store electricity, to generate your own renewables and then store it on site?
Oh yes, I mean, again, it's that circumstantial piece, isn't it, John? I mean, we're lucky enough here in Cambridge to have a nice big depot and lots of yard space, and have some connectivity already that we can share. And we've got our POC offer accepted on our next megawatt, as they're the numbers we're talking about now, isn't it?
Wow.
Coming in, and it's part of that whole ecosystem, as you guys well know. We actually buy our electric vehicles outright, which makes it even more interesting, but it means you can run them as long as you can, and we've seen what happens in the bus world for what you can do there. But we're already looking at we've got renewables on site. We're already looking at how we utilize those batteries and those vehicles in a decade's time when they start disappearing for the next ones, to build our own self battery storage. And we've got hopefully got the first battery going in Q2 this year to demonstrate how it can work on a full scale, on a small scale, once you've got the principle working. And when you get into microgrids and V2X, it just gets really, really exciting. And again, my commercial hat jumps on, same as Sam's. And we've calculated, with a bit of work from Energy Saving Trust, that if we go fully electric, which again I believe it will be, once we're fully electric at our Cambridge depot, we will have pushing 50 megawatts of storage here at the weekend. And you'll be stupid not to have that connected, because we don't run, most of our fleet doesn't run on a Sunday, most come back Saturdays, go off Monday. So dynamic charging, V2X, trying to push it back into the grid, it's just, again, it's that excitement factor that I spoke about right at the start. I mean, if you can't get excited or interested in that kind of thing, then you shouldn't be in business.
You're in the wrong job. Well,
exactly.
you'll be number one power player next year. I would love to see that, but now you are sadly out of time. I'm so sorry to have to butt in. Johnny, what's next?
Great job there, Sarah. But that was really interesting. Thanks for that, Chris. And we're starting to get some really good questions, which we will come back to you on after the next guest speaker. Particularly interested about the megawatts of power that could be available to the grid, especially after a time where we saw wholesale prices of electricity reached stupid heights in the last week or so. So even more so and even more important. So Sarah, anyway, over to you. Would you like to do the honours of introducing our fantastic guest?
I would.
Who's doing
Brett
such
was
a
having
great job at it.
Thank
Better
you.
than anyone else has ever done.
Oh, I'll take it, but that's not possible. So Brett was having technical difficulties before, so hopefully you're rolling on. I'll introduce you in the meantime. So Brett only wrote one sentence about himself, so I've been doing some digging. So Brett is the full range key account manager at Iveco, responsible for key accounts in construction, waste and recycling across the UK and Republic of Ireland. That is all it said. So I've also found out that Brett is a motivated and outgoing individual who enjoys life with a smile on his face. He loves koi, the fish, and performance cars, days out and exploring. And when he isn't out and about, he's a keen DIYer and loves seeing the end project, knowing the heartache and frustration that it took to get there. And that did make me think it sounded a lot like the zero emission transition, which we are all doing, and it's incredibly worth it. He has many years' experience within the automotive industry, providing the correct, tailored solution for customer. You can't deny he is very passionate about what he does, because his fun fact, and I quote, apart from being in my dream job, he used to keep many animals and reptiles, which include 2 horses, a king snake, a gecko, a black emperor scorpion, parakeets and ferrets, but does not include a giraffe. And we'll have to ask Chris about that in the Q&A. So Brett, over to you. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, hi all. Thanks very much for the invite from EV Café. Absolute pleasure to be here. So yeah, well done on the digging. Sarah, you found everything out, which was sort of the plan a little bit. Yeah, so listen, you know, here at Iveco, we're no stranger to sustainability. We're the world leader in CNG vehicles. That's across all of the vans, through the medium range, right through to heavy. So, you know, we've sort of used that knowledge, used that passion to look at other alternative fuels. Obviously, we're talking about HGV electric today. So we've got 2 models which will be available to pre-order shortly this year, looking around April time. So they'll be in a 4x2 and a 6x2 format based on a rigid vehicle. And then you can have up to 7 batteries. But what does 7 batteries mean? So that's a total of 490 kilowatts of power. A little USB with the batteries. We can actually leave the right-hand side of the chassis completely free. Now, the truckers and haulers out there, and I'm sure Chris will pick up on it as well, that's ideal for body build solutions. So if you need to mount some equipment on that side, refuge vehicles, you know, the list sort of endless. We've also got the industry-leading 7 modes for the regeneration mode. So the reason why we've got so many is every operation and every mission that we do and obviously cater for is different. Each customer's got their own different requirements as well. So having the flexibility on the regen mode, for example, if you're shipping something with liquids and you don't want to slosh around so much, you can put it on a much less aggressive regeneration. If you don't really mind and your load's stable and you want to get the most charge put back into your battery, obviously you can increase it again. So we've tried to give the end user the most flexibility on how they operate their vehicle. And yeah, we've got up to 400 kilometers of range. That's on the 7 battery model. And yeah, available in a wide range of cabs as well. So yeah, I'm just more interested with any sort of particular questions you've got out there. I'm more than happy to go into extensive detail, you know, technology that we use, charging rates. Like, you know, the country's not quite there yet, as Sam probably knows. But when we get up to the 350 kilowatts, our vehicle can take that. So again, what does that mean for you guys out there? Within your driver's break, so your 45-minute statutory break, you will actually go from 20 to 80% of charge. Which is a bit of a game changer, and it sort of takes that little bit of apprehension away to think, oh, will I make it? Well, yeah, you can call in, top up, and you know, carry on with the journey. But yeah, feel free all either in the chat, ask me questions, or you've all got my LinkedIn profile through here. So DM me anything technical. You want some more info and stuff? I'm more than happy to engage and send stuff over to you.
Brilliant. I've got a question, Brett.
Go.
Volumes. So let's assume that we're inspiring people to say, yes, I want to take some of these electric HGVs. What kind of volume production will you have for the UK market?
Yeah, great question, John. So we've got no caps at the moment because they're made actually in a separate factory in Ulm, Germany. So yeah, we've actually dedicated a factory to do exactly the EVs. So let's switch that question around. If I get an order for 1,000 electric trucks, I'll make it fit.
Love it.
Well, the good news is I'm going to get to go and see the Ulm factory, I believe, in March. So we'll be giving an EV Café report on the factory and on the journey to electric trucks with Iveco. So that'll be really cool.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll see you there. So that'll be a good trip.
Great.
Lee Dalton's got a question in the Q&A tab. Thank you for putting it in there, Lee. What payload do you envisage with a 6x2 tractor unit with 7 batteries?
So I knew that maybe the tractor unit question would come up. So the tractor unit will be a little bit later on this year, potentially next year. Just because we see the mission profile predominantly helping out in rigids, because it's very sort of last mile at the minute. The infrastructure for charging isn't quite here yet for the trucks. So yeah, I can definitely if you send me some details for your contact, I'll get that info to you once we know. But yeah, it's not got quite the answer yet. Apologies.
That's
Brett,
helpful, Brett.
just help us with 6x2 and 4x2. We've got a lot of non-truck people in the chat, so just kind of talk us through what that means.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no worries at all. So both of our options, 6x2 and 4x2, are a rigid vehicle. So that's not a tractor unit. That's where the whole vehicle is one. So you can have them like a curtain side vehicle, a box, a refrigerated vehicle, something like that. So yeah, it's called like a chassis cab. Everything's all built on one platform. The 4x2 element is the wheels. So yeah, 4 means you've got a total of 4 wheels, so it's 2 axles. And the 2 part is the driven part. So 2 of the wheels are driven, the other ones just steer, obviously because you've only got two axles. 6x2 is literally just to add on at the back. So yeah, it's still 2-wheel drive, but you've actually got 6 wheels. The main difference you get between the two, so I'll talk diesel because everybody knows that for the minute. So a diesel 4x2 payload is 18 ton gross vehicle weight, and a 6x2 gross vehicle weight altogether is 26 ton. Yes, the main differences.
Brilliant, really helpful. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Brett. Since we have so many good questions from our audience, JC, I think perhaps we should bring Chris back on to help answer them, and for you, JC, to answer questions on their behalf.
Cheers, dude. Right, let's get them back on. Whilst they're coming, Paige Mullen has asked about 3 questions in one. I'm going to try and pick a couple if I may. Electrification, decarbonisation can be very capital intensive. If there are any upgrades required at a depot, is the landlord helping fund any electric upgrades to either the power, substation, whatever? What normally happens in this situation, Sam? I guess that's one for negotiation and discussion.
Yeah, actually, I think I'd probably rather divert that one to Chris, to be honest, because from a depot perspective, I think he'll have a better answer than me.
It goes without saying.
We've got it from both sides of the fence, but so point one, we luckily own most of our sites, so again that's me talking to my dad and asking how much I'm allowed to spend. We do have, interestingly enough, we do have some commercial sites, and one of them is a car supermarket. So what we are doing in those cases, because we are the landlord, we are paying for the grid connection. We're getting the offer, we're securing the energy, and we're getting it to site. And actually at that point, we're saying, well, now it's your job to then put in what you want to put in. And actually the arrangement will be, we'll foot the cost of getting the energy to it. And like we all know, it's not cheap. But then when you put in, again, these car chargers, they're only looking at 20, 40 kilowatt chargers to begin with. You need to keep that kit on site once you leave. So you commission it, you look after it, but not being funny, it's ours when you're finished with it, whether that's 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But it's an interesting conversation to be having with landlords, because again, that comes into the whole piece about where you are with break clauses, how long you've got left, their appetite. And again, that's luckily a site that's a bit out in the sticks like we are here in Cambridge, but I've got depots in Bedford that's in the middle of an industrial estate, and that's been a bit harder to try and Paul Stumping Ground. That's been a bit harder to try and get hold of and then also battle with.
Yeah, John,
So-
just to add to Chris's point, one of the things I personally had issues with my leased properties back in the day when I did have a delivery company was dilapidation considerations as well. So if you are leasing a property and you put all of this wonderful kit in, the landlord may deem that as something you've got to pay to get out again. Even though it's of value to them to retain it, they still have the rights to tell you to take it all out again. So that's another area where people need to be very cautious in regards to what the long-term implications are of installing in infrastructure.
Thank you, Sam. Going back to Chris, if I may, that was really helpful, Sam. Chris, there's a second part to that question that Paige poses, and it's if you're looking at new depots, electrification clearly plays a big part in that. Do you look for a depot that has a great DNO connection already? So do you go where the electric is, or do you get the electric put into the depot where you are?
Yeah, the grid obviously, as we all know, is going to play a big part in where it is now. But I think there's been some improvements, and Sam will know this, in the last 6 months where you can actually go to a DNO and they should be able to give you the projection of what is going to be connected to that land mass in the future. Again, it's a journey, isn't it? So going after 1 megawatt now, whilst again it's a lot of energy, you are going to be 2, 3 and 5 years time, and depending on how big your site is. So it's understanding that roadmap. It's a difficult one to answer, John, to be honest, like you say, because again it comes back to the piece where do you build in my world, in a transport depot, do you do it next to good infrastructure links, which in theory is kind of hopefully where the power is anyway. But then where's your customer base, where you're hoping your customer base is going to be? It's a whole mixing pot of questions, really. And I think there is going to be losers. There is going to be people that are going to have to move sites, because I don't think the roadmap for decarbonisation or electrification in that area is going to be quick enough.
The legend that is Lorna McAteer says, Chris, you are correct. Anyone wanting a connection should contact their DNO to see what work is already in the pipeline. It should be info available on the websites. Thank you, Lorna, very much for that. Is Brett there? Brett, my dear chap.
Yes, still here.
Got a question from Pradeep Sood, who asks, is hydrogen a possibility for HGV in the UK? I didn't go to Sam first because I think we know what he might say. What do you reckon, Brett?
Listen, yeah, anything's possible. And I know there's always this battle between hydrogen and electric and alternative fuels. So I'll sort of not go down any sort of pointy finger routes. I'll give my own personal outlook and opinion. So this is not Iveco's stance or anyone else, it's just mine. So the problem with hydrogen is the infrastructure over here is virtually non-existent. Yes, we've got bits, and some people have got plans to change it. The biggest thing for me is the reason why I don't think it will take off, certainly not in the short term, is just the sheer cost of it. So not many people know this, but to purchase, say, a hydrogen vehicle, if Iveco now made a hydrogen lorry, you're potentially going to be 8 to 10 times more expensive than a diesel variant. Now, we're already seeing that the uplift of BEV products, as I'm sure Chris will know, it is more than diesel, because you've got R&D and all the rest of it, and it's a new technology. So I think if you couple that with the sort of lack of infrastructure, and then also from my insurance days, I did a bit of commercial business insurance back in my day. I know that certainly at the moment, no insurance company will insure a business with a great tank of hydrogen under the ground. It's just too volatile. And then, with all the other wonderful stuff that's happening in the world, we've got HVO fuel, which, at Iveco, and I know a lot of other OEMs can just drop in the tank nowadays. We've obviously got electric, which is coming. So, yeah, I think it will happen eventually, but I personally don't think it will be a fix for anything. Certainly not short term, anyway.
All right, mate. Now, whilst you're on, don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
What impact does using EPTO have on the range of your trucks?
Oh yeah, I've seen that one from Steve. Yeah, so
Yeah.
the EPTOs are a funny thing, now, because obviously we've not had any experience of them before other than electric vehicles, and we found it's very mission dependent. So I've had experience from other OEMs, like from a skip loader point of view, the amount of regeneration that you get from driving around. Obviously, we all know how good EVs are on stop-start scenarios. That's what basically the regen is designed for. That was enough to power the equipment all day. So it was like a free use of equipment with no cost to the traction batteries. So what we've seen with the EPTOs is a lot of the companies now designing these refrigeration units or other stuff to work with an EPTO have done so from scratch. So they've had in mind, keep the use level down. It's a brand new technology, so keep the efficiency high as well. So the answer is, Steve and others, not a lot. You're talking sort of 0.02, 0.03 of a kilowatt per kilometre. So it's virtually unmeasurable because everything's been designed to work together.
Magnificent. Thank you so much, Brett. Paul.
Pleasure.
Well, I just wanted to comment. I've had the loan of a 7.2 ton Iveco E Daily with solar on the roof.
Good. Oof.
But the solar on the roof obviously mitigates that demand. So on the traction battery and on the EPTO, and you can actually run some of the ancillary equipment from that tool. So and it's even working in the fridge world as well. So I know that there are companies out there that put solar on the top of the fridge body, and that will power and charge the fridge units as they go with lithium batteries in them. So there is definitely ways of doing everything that you do today with a diesel vehicle and mitigating that sort of power demand or power drain. So to Brett's point, you never really know until you test it in your own mission and circumstance.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's 100% right and well said. And listen, again, I won't go too technical, but we've got 3 PTOs that we can fit to the vehicles, all of which vary in what voltage and wattage that they draw. So again, we can tailor the best one to the mission. And you're 100% right. If we fit something like a solar panel on the roof, that's probably enough to power your tail lift all day and don't even touch the traction battery. So yeah, there's, I admire Chris. He's clearly got a passion for gadgets and stuff, same as me, driving stuff forward and pushing the boundaries. And, it's going to take people like that to actually open everyone up, because, the industry that we're in is very old-headed, very stuck in the ways. And some people don't even want to try something alternative. But quite quickly, when they do try it, actually, that's not too bad.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of comment about cobalt and the use of cobalt in batteries. Just to give you a heads up, only 4% of all the cobalt that's mined goes into electric vehicles. Mobile phones, computers, all the batteries that we use in everything else in the world accounts for 96%, 4% only for electric vehicles. Anybody who says cobalt is a reason not to do this is talking garbage. Chris,
cobalt's being moved out of these entirely, which is
indeed.
So that's 0%.
You're quite right. Thanks, Sam. Chris, what's the biggest hurdle, and possibly Sarah as well, what's the biggest hurdle to setting up a trading system for depot charging, visiting third-party companies? Any thoughts?
Got a policy one, but Chris, you lead.
The biggest hurdle or barrier is the integration. And as we've seen in the car world, there's multiple platforms. It's trying to get something that sits above it or below it and combines it all. The biggest barrier is not having. I mean, we've only got 3 electric lorries, and we've already got 5 RFID cards, because that's what we're at the moment, and that's not using the people that just, like I said earlier, write on a bit of paper. So the biggest barrier is collaboration. There's people, everyone knows the opportunity that this brings with it. So it's just positioning minds correctly, shall we say? But
and I guess, Sarah, it's also about sort of system integration, in that you use a lot of technology in your cabs anyway, in terms of job allocations and proof of deliveries and all that kind of stuff. So putting in a system that shares information using one interface has to be the ultimate aim. Make the driver's job as simple as possible.
Yeah, we always want the driver to have the easiest solution. We also want the depot owner to have the safest and most convenient and easiest solution as well. And policy does stand in the way of this a little bit. It's if you are, I think I'm working with the REA on it at the moment with Matt Adams, and this all started with AFP, thanks Lorna and co. It's about nominating that vehicle and user as a named person, so they're not a visitor, because what you don't want to do is look like you are a public charging site and fall foul of those regulations and have to have complex systems. So maybe a piece of paper is the sneaky way.
Sam, your little mitt is in the air.
Yes, yeah, we're working on this as well, of course, and it slightly speaks to bookability and reservation as well, and we're doing a lot of work with a lot of the roaming parties at the moment, whereby whilst roaming is predominantly a functionality for public charging to make convenience better for our ease of use out in the wild, we're also now working with those parties to see how we can collaborate with them to provide the same card functionality but at depot level. So what that means is there'll be a geofencing or a financial location-based pricing structure, which means that there'll be a different price that you would use your roaming card for, maybe even nil cost if it's your own vehicles and your own piece of land, but that same card will work out in the domain, in the public domain as well. So there's lots of different ways in which we as an industry are already working out solutions to make that collaboration and the sort of trading or at least working with each other with different tariffs and rates on different locations possible. So and then there's more connectivity and filtering and complexity around the new OCPP compliance and all that stuff as well, which will help have greater granularity as to what can be done. So these things are not foolproof solutions yet, but there's lots of technology that can be repurposed to make that more seamless in the future.
Right, we've got 3 minutes left, JB. Have I got time for a cheeky little one, or
You have
are we
indeed.
done? All right, cheeky little one from Michael Barton. And it's the age-old question of the total cost of ownership and TCO. How can we get people in the HGV industry to focus on the TCO of a vehicle rather than what is seen as a substantial upfront cost to procure the vehicle? Sam, Chris, Brett, who wants to go?
Oh, well, I'll do a quick one. It's easy because they already do it. And if Chris doesn't say that, I'll eat my own foot. That is part and parcel of all logistics and haulage companies. They've got to work out their total cost of ownership. So if they're not doing that now, then I'm worried. There are a few people in the industry that have a knee jerk. Oh, how much is the truck? But that's a bit naive, because really, without doing the whole total cost of ownership, you're fighting a battle with both arms, both legs tied behind you. So yeah, Chris.
Let's just say you don't, Chris. So see Sam eat his foot.
Yeah, I pay good money to see that.
I think what it's going to do is it's going to change the attitude of operators to how they run their fleets. A lot of operators are very used to having a vehicle on lease or HP, and it's 2-3 years and then it's done, and they change it over. We haven't been like that forever, but I think it'll start people looking at, right, well, actually, let me at least own that asset by the end of it. Let me be able to run it for longer. Again, you look at what's happened in the car world, the coach world, the van world, sorry, bus, not coaches, and you just run them for longer at the end of the day. And then you flip the other side of that. Is the flip side is the most exciting thing about all this, and we talked about microgrids and renewables, is being able to control potentially being able to control the price of what the fuel that you're putting in your vehicle or your electric. I've never been able to control the price of diesel unless I hedge it. I find with renewables, with battery storage, with adaptive tariffs, you can drive the price of electric really, really down. And then the final point actually to that is maintenance. Again, we're lucky enough to run our own OEM service dealer. Our first electric rig has been on the road for 2 years now. And okay, it was new and it's 2 years old, but it's been bulletproof. So the calculations we did as far as R&M and maintenance and looking after these vehicles is concerned is showing a very, very good picture, shall we say.
I kind of wonder if Michael's question is more one of our hearts and minds around the wider population, those naysayers, the people that are outside of the industry that aren't Chris, that haven't done it before and just look at the price tag. And I think it beholds Brett, you and your colleagues across the industry to really kind of lead the way in demonstrating this as you're talking with customers. Are you finding that a change in attitude within Iveco as a manufacturer to really lead on that total cost of ownership conversation?
Yeah, of course. And, Sam and a few have said it, total cost of ownership, it is massive. It's nothing new. And yeah, every business should be doing it. It's good practice. But yes, what we are doing at Iveco to sort of help the onboarding and to support people, we've got lots of different payment options and packages and terms. So there's no actual sort of big, scary upfront cost. We work with infrastructure partners, relationships with the DNO. So, if it is a complete switch over and you've not had anything before, not even an electric car, we can walk you through the whole process from start to finish. And then, there's monthly payment options, there's guaranteed return options. There's loads of things available. So again, if you want anything bespoke or detailed, just get in contact. No problem.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you, Brett. I'm so sorry, all, but we've run out of time. And we've touched on so many incredibly big topics today. Anything from cobalt, roaming, big energy, trucks. We always need more time. So good job. We are 365 with webinars, podcasts, weekly news. So you know where to go if you need all of that.
It's
on.
To find out more, it's evcafe.org or to register for the next webinar. And it got me thinking, maybe we need to do some guest editor pieces to help cover all these topics in greater detail. Chris, maybe you could do a piece for us so we can put it out onto our webpage and out to the wider world. So I'm sure you've got loads more to talk about. But I just want to finish off by saying thanks once again to our incredible speakers. That's Sam, Chris and Brett, and to the EV Café team for sharing their expertise today as well. And of course, a big thank you to our audience for joining us on this crucial discussion as always. Until next time, drive safe and drive electric. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank
Thanks
you.
all.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Sam.
Live.
See you.